Yo, what's up guys? So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Yami and Shinigami, part 4. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Long dialogue incoming. Since I can remember, and even before then, my life has been controlled by people like Sandaime Hokage, and Danzo. I have been beaten, burned, and mentally scarred, and it is all because of the people my parents entrusted their dying wish to. Before I got my gifts, I was kept in the dark about not only my heritage, but also my birthright and status. I was bred to be someone completely loyal to the village to the point that I wouldn't dare fight back against the people who hurt me. All of this would have gone exactly as they planned, had it not been for me. Kurama used some of his power to grant me untold power, and that is a debt I will never be able to repay him. Because of these gifts, I have a family, something I was denied by this village. I have friends, something the parents of this village made sure I never had. And, finally, I have power, something the Hokage hoped I would never acquire. I have the opportunity to forge my own fate in this world, rather than follow the path some old geezers laid out for me. It is because of these circumstances that I plan on burning not only this village, but the entire shinobi world to the ground, and rebuilding atop its ashes. People all over the world have done atrocious things, not only to, but also to regular people. Displayed perfectly in the bloodline wars of Kiri. People fighting what they are too afraid to understand. Because of this, there is an endless cycle of hatred that has consumed the whole world. I will end the cycle by destroying the foundation it lies on. I will start a new era where people will not be judged on acts of the past. There will no longer be grudges between villages due to past wars. It will not be perfect, as nothing is, but it will be peace. True, uncorrupted peace. I ask you, and many people in the future, to join me. To help me end the wars, the hatred, and the discrimination people harbor against each other. I ask, not that you betray your village, but that you help cleanse it. Please, join me, and end this cycle of hatred. Naruto ended his speech with his hand outstretched to them in an offer of a treaty. They thought for a few minutes, but soon was the first to stand and shake his hand. For too long has there been corruption in Konoha. Danzo is a prime example. And if this is happening in other places, then something needs to be done. I and my clan will join you, she said seriously, as she shook his hand. Thank you, I greatly appreciate your assistance, and look forward to helping out your clan in any way I can. Please have a seat. Naruto smiled, as he was gestured to a seat by Kushina and Mikoto. Once she was seated, Naruto turned back towards the other two. Both seemed to be deep in thought, something he expected entirely. Shibi was finally the one to speak up. My clan is not one to jump to violence, seeing as it will destroy many of our bugs. If I stay in Konoha, my clan will most likely be used to fighting you. If I join you, can you guarantee that we will not be forced to fight? I promise that no one will be forced to fight for my goals. Though, if someone were to want to help, I will not stop them. This will also not stop me from helping your clan in any way I can, including growing your collection of bugs, helping with your fighting styles, and anything in between. The blonde reassured me. Then the only logical answer is to accept. Thank you for this opportunity. Shibi responded, bowing in thanks before shaking the blonde's hand. Thank you, I look forward to working with you. Please have a seat. Now it was all down to Shikaku. All eyes were on him, and he finally sighed, and stood up. Troublesome. So, you will basically be a tyrant, ruling over the villages, and executing anyone who steps out of line? He asked, hesitant to come to a decision. Naruto slightly frowned at this. Not in the slightest. First of all, you are being ruled by a dictator right now, and I will be less of a ruler, and more like a guardian. I will travel through the world, and keep peace. Now, if someone were to step out of line, as you put it, I will merely help solve the problem. If a village wants to cause war, then I will put them down, and rebuild. If it is a lone shinobi or group, then I will merely help the village stop them if they need the help. And what of the innocent people of the other villages? Would they just be collateral damage? This was his last excuse for not joining, and they all knew it. I will do as I am doing right now. I will give them a choice to either join me, and help fight, or be kept safe away from the fighting, or they can stay, and fight for their village. I am not a bad person, Shikaku. I am not looking to put everyone under my thumb. I merely want to rid those are the people who started this cycle of hatred, so they must be the ones who are removed from the equation. Naruto explained, hoping that the grand strategist would join him. How troublesome. I have no reason to decline, and I guess not being forced to fight just to survive would be a good change of pace. I guess I will accept your offer. Naruto smirked, as he rubbed the back of his neck. Oh, he could just imagine how the Hokage was going to react. Excellent. I am so glad you were able to see things my way. Please have a seat so I can explain plans for the next couple of months. Naruto's smile beamed, as everyone got comfortable in their seats, and looked at him, ready to listen. Okay, first of all, what do you all know about Kami? Time skip preliminary round. Hello, and congratulations to the fine young genin who has passed the second stage of the Chunin exams. the Hokage announced proudly, as if there was an actual audience outside of the people who had to be there. Unfortunately, due to how many of you have passed, we must conduct a preliminary round, so as to make the third stage shorter. We cannot have the final tournament take all day to complete, lest we bore our visitors. The genin that had passed the second round were as follows. Team Naruto, Teams 8, 9, and 10. Team Gar, Team Kabuto, and a small team from the Hidden Mists that had barely managed to squeak through at the last second. Since there are an odd number of people in these exams, one person will automatically proceed to the next round in the exams. That is, unless someone would like to forfeit their position due to wounds or exhaustion. Sarutobi asked, looking over the rows of genin for anyone to raise their hand. Kabuto remembered his master's orders, as he kept his hand at his side. I need you to stay longer in the exams. I wasn't able to test the blonde enigma that is Naruto Uzumaki. Apparently, according to our spies, he has gained immense power recently, even being able to resurrect the long dead. You will continue to advance in the Chunin exams while keeping an eye on him, as well as my next vessel. There were a few seconds of bated breath before Hiruzen nodded and gestured for another to begin his part. Now, that screen Jekko picked up, pointing to a screen that was now being revealed. We'll randomly select 2 people to fight. The winners of these matches will go on to battle in the third stage. With his part done, Heiei stepped back as the screen shuffled through the names until it stopped on 2. Sasuke Uchiha vs. Yori Kato. Sasuke looked on in arrogance as he stayed put while those not fighting went up to the viewing platforms. With a few days' rest, the Uchiha was ready enough to put his all into this fight. The problem was that the curse mark was still acting up, thanks to Sarutobi not being able to find Kakashi, no matter what he did. So, they were forced to wait until a certain seal master found the time to get his ass back to the village to seal the thing up. Okay, you two. The fight will only end if one of 3 conditions are met. 1. Someone surrenders. 2. I call the match an obvious defeat. 3. Someone is killed before I can stop the match. While we do not promote the latter ending, we will also not stop anyone from performing lethal techniques. If you two are ready, you may begin. Heiei jumped back as Akato sprang into action. The older Leaf Nin started the fight by going for grapples, just trying to grab a hold of the elusive brunette with his chakra-laced palms. Even without activating his Sharingan, Naruto was able to tell that that technique was used to suck the chakra out of a person and convert it to the user's own. It was pretty obvious to anyone who looked closely, seeing as how the chakra that naturally hung in the air was being drawn towards his hands, causing a distortion in the air. Sasuke, seeing that he wasn't getting anywhere being on the defensive, activated his Sharingan and twirled around the enemy's grab. Then, using his enhanced reflexes, he was able to perform a pretty hefty combo along the older man's torso. Coming out of his spin, Sasuke severely overestimated how much damage his punches were gonna cause, because by the time he was ready to continue with the fight, Akato already had one hand around the younger boy's wrist. The change was immediate. No longer did Sasuke wear an arrogant smirk, completely confident in his ability to win this match. Now, he looked angry, as his opponent stole his precious chakra. Smirking, Sasuke allowed the mark to give him some power, allowing the boy to pry the man's fingers away from his wrist, as well as completely snap his index and middle finger. Akato yelled out at the unexpected pain, holding his left hand shakily. Not giving his opponent any time to recuperate, Sasuke dashed forwards before bringing his elbow up hard into his enemy's chin. With his enemy disoriented, the last Uchiha spun his leg around and slammed his heel into Akato's stomach, making him bend over and gasp for the air that just leapt from his lungs. Sasuke had never felt this kind of power before. When they were in the forest, he had been too disoriented from waking up in a tree, as well as from the pain the mark was spreading throughout his body. Now though, he could really relish in the overwhelming power, for him, that was coursing through. Wanting to show how much he enjoyed his power, Sasuke brought his leg up for an axe kick with a wide, cruel smile marrying his face. With the force of a sledgehammer, the brunette shot his foot down on the man's head, and slammed it into the ground face first. Smirking at his obvious win, Sasuke HMPH''D, and started to walk away, only to feel a slight pressure on his ankle, stopping him from walking any further. If he had been happy before, now the boy was ecstatic. Not wasting a second more, Sasuke spun around, and brought his foot up with a sharp kick to the man's chin, sending an audible snap throughout the arena. Gekko walked towards the defeated man, and checked his pulse. After a long, silent second, the man turned towards the Hokage, and simply shook his head in the negative. Naruto almost missed the small smirk that tugged at the old man's lips. Almost. Once the body was taken from the field, and Sasuke had taken his place up in the stands with the rest of them, the screen shuffled through the names again, this time stopping on a fight that Naruto was certainly excited to see. Yukatori Hako vs. Ino Yamanaka. Now, the blonde knew that this wasn't going to be a fair fight, seeing as his fellow blonde focused more on boys and gossip than actual training, as could be seen by her lithe and skinny frame. But this was a good start to Yuki's enhanced training regimen. She could fight someone in her age group, find what areas she was lacking in, and find out what to focus on. And so, when Naruto looked down at the arena after coming out of his short train of thought, he was not expecting the fight to be over already. Or maybe not. But the deadpan, the blonde used his time manipulation to find out exactly what happened, without having to ask around. 20 seconds earlier, the two girls had gotten down to the arena floor, and told the proctor that they were ready. This went by quicker due to them not having to hear Hade go through the rules like the previous match. But it started pretty much how he expected. Ino immediately tried to bad-talk Naruto, calling him a big-mouthed show-off, and that Yuki was only following him because he had some blackmail on her. It didn't help that the blonde made it sound like Naruto was making Yuki do inappropriate things against her will. Yuki had taken that personally, and immediately engaged her opponent with a flurry of strikes and jabs, all placed to hit where they would hurt like hell the next morning. The Iowa native ended her combo with a spinning heel kick to the blonde's makeup face, knocking her out like a light. Yuki walked back to his side with a huff of annoyance at the Yamanaka's audacity. Good job. Quick and effective, like a good shinobi. Naruto complimented with a smile, causing the brunette to blush and utter a quick thank you before looking away. Chuckling, Naruto looked back up to the screen to see a member of Guy's team against one of the Sand Genin. Tenten. vs. Temari of the Sand. Okay, he had a pretty good idea of how this one was going to go, as well. It started off with Temari opening up her fan to the first moon, though she had yet to go on the offensive. Instead, she waited for her opponent to make the first move. She didn't have to wait long, as Tenten started to chuck weapon after weapon at the Sand Genin, using expert marksmanship to aim at the vital areas on the body. She also took into account how each weapon was used, choosing to throw stabbing weapons, such as a sword or dagger, like a javelin, while blunt force weapons were thrown at joints and the head. What confused Naruto so much was that after a couple of seconds of seeing Temari blow the weapons out of the air with her exceptional use of wind manipulation, Tenten just continued to toss weapons, hoping that something would skim past. The panda lookalike boasted about being a weapons expert, and yet all she was doing was throwing them, albeit with fantastic accuracy, but that doesn't change how much is wrong with that approach. While one may choose to throw their sword as a last-ditch effort, the effective attack would be to use it for what it was made for, melee attacks. Anyway, this match was pretty cut and dry. Temari didn't see the need in opening up her fan any further, choosing to just end the fight with a well-thought-out strategy. She used her fan to send a great gust of wind at the Konohenen, taking advantage of the Kunoichi's already airborne status to knock her off balance. Once gravity decided to work once again, Tenten was sent flailing down towards the ground, only coming up with a shoddy solution at the last second, and by that time it was too late. She ended up landing, back first, on Temari's closed metal fan. Yeah, safe to say that she was gonna have some serious spinal damage. The blonde Kunoichi walked back up to the observing stands with a victorious smirk adorning her pretty face. She looked on in shock, however, when she met the gaze of a smiling Naruto. Nice job. Great use of wind manipulation, and playing to your strengths. Well, you had the advantage from the start, you didn't let that cloud your judgment, and that is a very admirable trait. I just came over to congratulate you, as well as ask how your brother's been doing. Naruto ended with, oh, thank you. Temari blushed slightly, not used to someone actually having the balls to have a normal conversation with her, what with her brother being A, and her father being the Kazekage. And Gar's been really good. He's sleeping well, eating enough for 3 people, and joking around with us. I don't think I've ever seen him smile this much, and it's all thanks to you. I can never repay you for what you did for us. She finished her summary with a smile, and a respectful bow. You don't need to thank me so much. I'm glad I could help. Well, I should get back to my team, but I hope to see you around. Hey, maybe you can teach me how to use one of those giant fans, seeing as how my main element is wind, as well. He laughed while walking away. Of course, he had his own version of Madara's war fan, but having something that wouldn't immediately make people think he was the old Uchiha would be cool. The next couple of rounds were pretty uneventful. Shikamaru went up against one of the Kiri Genin, and while he seemed reluctant, Nara used his incredible intelligence to outplan his enemy, and seize victory by making his opponent forfeit. After that was a battle against Shoji Akamichi and Shino Aburam. This fight ended in a win for the young bug user, as it was not unlike fighting a charging bull. All he needed to do was wait until the last minute to jump out of the way of the large rolling boy's path until he ran out of chakra. He didn't have to wait that long due to him using his Kakechu bugs that sucked the energy out of him like tiny vampires. The next fight was actually a pretty interesting one, seeing as how Kiba and Yuzuka had to fight the Hyuga prodigy Niji. While the Byakugan user had no ill will towards the K9 user, he also didn't see the need to be gentle with him. And so, Niji proceeded to strike, and close most of the other boy's chakra points, before sending him to the ground with a well-placed chakra palm to the chest. After the fight was called in his favor, the young Hyuga looked up to the other Hyuga in the stands, Hinata, and glared at her in a way that promised pain. Fortunately, the meek and gentle girl had to fight one of the Kyonin, whose main form of fighting was illusions and misdirection. The problem with that was that the Byakugan was able to see right through the illusions, as if they weren't even there, before using a very sloppy version of the fighting style they previously watched Niji use perfectly. Though, I guess that doesn't matter, as she still came out with the win. Kinkuro had to fight one of the other members of Kabuto's team, an in named Misumi Tsurugi. This one was surprising, for most anyway, as when everyone thought that the puppet user was trapped in his opponent's snake-like body, he appeared out of the wrappings on his back, where everyone had assumed he kept his puppet, and proceeded to trap the trapper with his weapon, Crow. When it was Rock Lee's turn, he didn't hesitate to jump down to the arena floor with excitement of finally getting to fight. While it wasn't anything special, Lee was able to incapacitate his opponent, the last Kyori Genin, with expertly used Taijutsu. Though he did have a bit of trouble with the Kyonin's Genjutsu at first, he was able to use his pure speed to race around the entire arena, until he finally found the coward, and beat him senseless. He didn't even have to take his weights off, what a shame. Finally, Naruto's name came up, and he could only smile a most joyous smile at the sight of who he would be fighting. Naruto Uzumaki. vs. Kabuto Yakushi. Kabuto also let a grin come over his face. This is a perfect opportunity to see just how much more powerful the little brat has become. If he proves to be a threat, this is the best time to take him out of the picture, without drawing too much suspicion. Once the two were down in the arena, Gekko asked him the same question he had asked everyone else, and got 2 nods of confirmation for his troubles. Begin. They were both off their feet in a second, charging straight at their opponent like a bullet. Naruto, being the faster shinobi, was able to react first when they ultimately clashed, sending a right haymaker to the silver-haired teen's face. While Kabuto was able to block in time, the force of the punch was still able to launch him backwards a good 7 meters, and make him stumble back, only barely staying on his feet. Not giving the man enough time to recuperate, Naruto appeared next to the teen already in mid-kick. The blonde jumped up and spun, aiming for the head for optimal damage. Again, barely reacting in time, Kabuto ducked under the kick, and sent his own punch up towards the blonde. Only for his punch to hit nothing but air, as Naruto used his unnatural flexibility, and a clever usage of wind manipulation to twist away from the attack. Using momentum from his dodge, Naruto sent an upside-down roundhouse kick to the top of the teen's head, using his spin to hide his true attack. Kabuto dodged to the right, just as planned. Naruto's foot that he had initiated the kick with touched the ground with the force of a feather, instead sending another kick with his other leg, this one making contact. The other genin were astounded at the boy's exceptional taijutsu techniques. He was almost floating in the air before turning all of that momentum and damage into a simple step, while transferring the force to his opposite leg. He looked as if he was dancing, what with how elegant and smooth it all looked. Kabuto was just able to block the follow-up punch, using a liberal amount of chakra in both his arms and legs, to be able to only skip backwards a few feet, the blonde's hand still in his hand. Surprisingly, blood spurted out of the blonde's fist through tiny incisions all along the front of his knuckles. Naruto looked at his hand with a raised eyebrow, not having time to wonder, as Kabuto stood up and started to sneer. Oh yes, did I not mention? My technique, Chakra Scalpels, allows me to make incisions inside a person's body, without ever needing to cut the skin. Although, due to how much chakra I used to block your attack, the technique was able to cut skin, as well as the tendons in your hand. Kabuto explained, noting the look of annoyance that passed through the boy's eyes. I'm sorry, did I ask? Naruto asked curiously. What? Kabuto stuttered, taken aback by the blonde's indifference to his technique. Suddenly, the blonde was upon him again, forcing him to backpedal, and do everything in his power to not get hit with Naruto's insanely powerful punches. I said. Did I ask? Naruto said again, this time accentuating his words with sped-up punches that easily got inside his opponent's guard, ending with an uppercut to the man's chin. While the silver-haired spy was in the air, he had some time to think of some questions about his past choices, most of them being rather recent. One of them that wasn't about his choices per se, was, why is there a ball of blood coming at him right now? Everyone watched as Naruto, rather than heal the wound on his hand, gathered the blood that was leaking out of the cuts into a palm-sized ball that hovered over his hand. He then lifted his hand, palm facing his opponent, and waited. As the ball grew bigger, the more blood that was sucked into it. Finally, as Kabuto reached the apex of his ascent, the ball suddenly compressed into the size of a bullet before launching with the speed of one straight at the airborne teen. While most were expecting the ball to go straight through his opponent, ripping through muscle and sinew like on its journey, no one was expecting the ball to stay in the teen, as if it had lost all of its momentum somehow. The crowd waited with bated breath as Kabuto fell to the ground. As he hit the ground, many flinched, expecting an explosion or something from the force. Alas, nothing happened, except for the teen to bounce into the air once more before settling on the ground, unmoving. Abruptly, the silver-haired youth started to spasm, as boils appeared all over his skin, as if his very being was boiling like water on a stove. The blood-curdling scream that he let out also didn't help the less experienced genin to keep their lunch. After a few more seconds, Kabuto was free from his agony with a sigh of relief, only for his vision to blacken, and his body to become cold. Steam was then released from every orifice of his body, as he passed away into oblivion. Everyone, especially the higher-level ninja, knew exactly what had just happened. Whatever Naruto's technique was seemed to boil the very life force that ran through Kabuto's veins, releasing the water stored inside of blood, as a vapor, while the proteins and other solids became a coagulated mesh inside the boy's skin. He literally made the teen's blood boil with one little bowl. The audience came out of their shock in time to hear Naruto speak his technique, confirming their thought processes. Boiling blood bullet. Seeing as he was the obvious winner, Naruto started his walk up to his seat, watching as the weak-willed genin stepped out of his pathway rather quickly. The only ones who didn't hightail it out of the way was Gar and his siblings, Yuki, Sasuke, and surprisingly Niji, though he did take an involuntary 2 steps back. Naruto-kun, that was the most youthful. Lee came up to him, though not close enough to touch him, yelling about the brutality of the technique. Lee, would you calm down? He was a spy for Orochimaru. How else would he know all of that stuff he told you guys in the first exam? There was no way someone would know all of that stuff, no matter how many times they took the exam, since new people take the exams every year. The others were shocked to hear that, though it all made sense when he put it like that. They all silently kicked themselves for not thinking of that any sooner. This matter will be investigated, though I recommend you let the professionals handle the execution of justice next time. Hiruzen admonished, glancing at the almost deflated body every few seconds. Whatever, he was my opponent, so I did what I wanted. I was allowed to kill him, so I did. You got a problem with that? Naruto waved off before fixing the old man with a glare and a raised eyebrow, causing the Hokage to involuntarily shiver in fear. No, of course not. You were within your power, and did not break the rules, he said, shocking everyone at how fast he backpedaled. But, now, I believe Gar is the only one left, right? The blonde asked, changing the subject before anyone could question him about his technique. Cough cough yes, and, as he is the last one left, he automatically goes on to compete in the next round. Hiruzen announced, regaining his composure once again. Gar sighed in relief, knowing that the only techniques he really knew were all fatal. That was something he needed to work on over the month break. While he had no qualms about killing, he wanted to turn over a new leaf, so that he would never scare his family again. Now, if you would all come to the arena floor, we can find out who you all are fighting after the month break, which you will use to come up with a strategy to win against your opponent. Sarutobi explained, as he watched the genin do, as they were told. Enko was the one to approach them, holding a black box with the top having 4 flaps, so that they could stick their hands in. You will each stick your hands in, and pull out a ball that contains a number on it. Starting at 1, you will all fight the person whose number comes directly after yours. We will start at the left, and work towards the right, then the bracket will appear on the screen after a couple of seconds. Any questions? Enko asked, as she went to the leftmost person, who happened to be Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha, he couldn't wipe the smirk off of his arrogant face at that. Shino Abiram. Yuki Hako. Tamari of the Sand. Naruto Uzumaki. Rock Lee. Shikamaru Nar. Gaara of the Sand. Niji Hyuga. Hinata Hyuga. Kankuro of the Sand. Okay, you know who you're fighting. You have 1 month to come up with a strategy, and train your asses off to win your fight. Be here on time, and ready to battle or else you will be disqualified, no exceptions. She seemed to look at Sasuke at that last comment. Also, because we have one outlier, Kankuro of the Sand will face off against the winner of the first round. You are dismissed. As everyone went their separate ways, Naruto could only smile in anticipation for his fight, seeing as how Lee was one of the strongest geniuses of their generation. Though, he became serious a second later at the thought of what he would be doing over the break. Are you leaving immediately? Yuki asked, looking concerned for her friend. Not immediately, but after I do a couple of things, and get everyone else ready, then yes. I will also be leaving a clone here to train you for your fight. I hope you are ready for it. He finished with a cheeky grin, showing how much he would enjoy breaking her apart, and building her back up again. Well, I will do my best to make you proud. And Naruto, she got quiet after that, forcing Naruto to lean in close to try and hear what she had to say. Without warning, Yuki placed a chaste kiss on his cheek with a not-so-small blush adorning hers. Good luck. Come back safely, and don't take too many unnecessary risks, okay? Smiling a megawatt smile, Naruto responded with a hug to comfort her worries. I promise I will come back safely, and maybe with some new allies as well. Who knows, you know. They both laughed as they exited the arena and headed back to his compound to get ready for his trip. Everyone would be going to a different village to recruit the other alongside a Naruto clone that will act as a connection to Kurama, should the Biju need to be convinced. Kushina would be heading to Cloud with Mikoto to talk to Kyuubi and Matatabi. Tauka was going to Takigakure to assist Shimei. Madara was going after Seiken since there was a rogue, and Madara was the one with the best lay of the land. Shiro and Shisui were going to Iwagakure to help Son Goku and Kakuo should they need it. Finally, Naruto himself would be going to Kiri to help Asobu and try and get rid of his Obito problem once and for all. He might stop by Megakure and see if he could find Pain or whatever his name was. And in the meantime, Sarutobi still couldn't find Kakashi. "You doing what now?" Sarutobi growled out as he snapped the pen he was holding as he glared at the blonde in front of him. "I'm heading to Kiri to help out with the bloodline purge going on there," Naruto explains as he cleans his ear out with his pinky. "Yeah, I heard that part. Why do you think you would be allowed to go to Kiri?" Sarutobi asks, only then cursing the words he chose. The glare from the blonde sent silence throughout the room, even the hidden anger were too scared to move. "I think you've got something confused, old-timer. Do you think I keep you around as Hokage because of some respect I still have for how you used to act like you liked me back in the day?" Not seeing the old man respond, Naruto couldn't help but laugh. "You truly are senile, aren't you? I keep you around so that when I burn Konoha to the ground, you can sit there and watch, knowing you won't be able to do a damn thing. And when I build it back up to be a proper village, you get to watch, as everything you worked for means nothing now." After a short pause of thinking, Naruto had an idea. "Though, I guess you don't actually need to be Hokage to watch your home burn, do you?" Sarutobi's eyes grew wide, as he feared what the blonde would say next. "No, please, I won't question you again. You can do whatever you want, just don't disgrace the Sarutobi name." Crack. The Hokage desk split in two, as Naruto slammed his hand down. "You disgrace your own name by abusing and manipulating a child. Do not push your sins into me, you senile piece of shit. You've got until the end of the Chunin exams to find, notify, and promote your successor. Oh, and before you get any bright ideas, I'll have a clone bring you a list of suitable replacements of my choosing. Wouldn't you want you to choose anyone like I don't know Haddock?" Naruto finished with a sinister smile before vanishing in a crack of thunder. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage, and pronounced god of shinobi, could only sit there, frozen, as the realization of where one of his best shinobi has been all this time. Time for sake. That felt good. Now that that's settled, I can go ahead and make sure everyone else is packed and ready to leave. I don't want to leave any later than noon tomorrow, seeing as how I want to make it to Wave by nightfall to say hello to everyone and see how they're doing. I could also check in and see how my clones are doing with rebuilding Yuzushio." Naruto thought as he appeared in his living room without so much as a creak of the wooden floor. "Is everyone ready?" Even though he didn't shout, the room was instantly filled with people. "Hi." Kushina and Mikoto called out in unison, both wearing simple day clothes. "Sure thing," yelled Shiro with a big thumbs up to her friend. "Yep, all packed." Shisui and Tauka said calmly, trying to be at least a little professional. "Yeah," was all Madara said, as he cleaned his nails out. "Okay, awesome. You can leave whenever you want, but everyone needs to be gone by noon tomorrow. I will see each of you off so that I can send a clone with you to talk with the Biju. If you're all sure of your missions, then I bid you all good night. Get a good night's sleep, you'll need all the energy you can muster." With that said, Naruto walked to his room where he would need to pack for his own trip and leading struggles. As long as there aren't any surprises, they should be fine. Plus, with my clones going with them to mitigate damage, everything should go smoothly. He thought with confidence before going ahead and making a couple clones to pack for him so he could sleep. Time skip. "Good luck," Naruto called out as he watched Kushina's red hair bounce up and down as she jumped from tree limb to tree limb. "Well, I guess it's my turn," Naruto thought before disappearing in a silver flash, courtesy of his version of oration. In the next moment, the blonde genin was standing in what looked like a bustling business center with customers and shopkeepers alike hustling through the busy streets. He was about to continue on his way when he noticed many people stopping in their tracks and instead just staring at the newcomer. The blonde was confused until he turned around and saw what looked like a statue of him and the Momochi duo. There was a plaque at the base that read, "Guardians of Wave commissioned by Tazuna." Smirking a little, Naruto made his way to where Tazuna's house was only to be met with what looked like a mansion in place of the shabby hut he was living in before. With a shrug, the blonde went ahead and knocked on the door, only for it to be opened a moment later by the pretty face of Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami, whose face brightened up immediately when she recognized who was at the door. "Oh my, Naruto. It's so nice to see you again. Dad, Inari, get down here. Please come in." She called to her family before bringing the blonde inside. "Thank you, and it's great to see you, as well." Naruto greeted before hearing some grumbling coming from the stairs. Turning, he was met with the great bridge builder Tazuna and a slightly older Inari, the latter of whom had a short blade on his hip. "What's so important that you had to interrupt Mayo, Naruto? How are you? What brings you here?" Tazuna greeted with a large smile and a hug. Inari, though, had a different approach. "Naruto nai," he screamed as he slammed into the blonde like a bullet. "Haha, hey Inari, Tazuna. I've been well, I was just passing through, but I wanted to drop in to see how you all were doing." Naruto replied, as he gave Inari a big hug before putting him back on the ground. Well, we've been great ever since you saved our town. Business is booming, and I even got elected mayor. Tazuna replied with a puff of his chest. I'm glad to hear it. I know you'll do well to keep everything in order. I saw the statue on my way in, and honestly I'm flattered. The blonde said with a chuckle and scratch of his head. It was the least we could do for what you did for us. You, and those two Mamachi ninja. They were great help in dealing with some of Gato's thugs who lost their payment when their boss was killed and his assets taken from him. They tried to gather a group of them to take the town hostage, but Zabuza and Haku-chan were more than enough for them. Tazuna explained, as he led Naruto on a tour of the mansion. That's great to hear. Where are they now? Naruto asked, as he took in the large house in front of him. Oh, they went traveling after they finished everything from your training scroll. So, after we hired some security of our own, they didn't see any reason to stay, and left. They even helped train Inari when he wouldn't stop bugging them about getting stronger to protect everyone. Tsunami cut in with a chuckle, remembering how Inari kept bugging the easily angered missing nin. Yeah. And I've gotten really strong too. Inari shouted with a large smile, as he laid a hand on his sword. I'll be the judge of that. Naruto replied with a challenging smile. After lunch. Well, you certainly are strong for your age. Keep up the good work, and you might even get as strong as me one day. And to help with that, I made you a personalized training scroll, so that you can keep up your progress. The blonde laughed, as the boy took the scroll with awe in his eyes. Thank you so much, Naruto-nai. I won't let you down. With a big hug, the younger boy stepped back to admire the scroll, and see what was in store for him, only to blanch, as he read the first exercise. You really can't stay any longer? Tsunami asked, as she gave their savior a tight hug. Unfortunately, I can't. The quicker I get to Kiri, the quicker I can end the war going on there, and stop the needless bloodshed. Naruto, well, I can't blame you for wanting to help people. Just be careful, I don't want Wave to lose his savior, just because they thought they were so hot shit that they could stop a war by themselves. Tazuna laughed, as he too gave the blonde a farewell hug. Whoever said I was alone? Naruto said with a smirk, as he snapped his fingers only for a few seconds to pass off nothing happening. Snapping a few more times, Naruto sighed in exasperation. Come on guys, you completely ruined the mood. Just then, two figures appeared on either side of the blonde. One was trying to hide her chuckling behind her hand, while the other was openly laughing. Ha! I told you it would be funny, didn't I, Haku? Zabuza bellowed, as he had to clutch his stomach. He hadn't changed much since the last time Naruto had seen him, other than filling in a bit more muscle, and getting rid of his headband completely. Yes, I suppose you did. Sorry Naruto-kun, but we couldn't help it. Haku chuckled seeing the defeated look on the blonde's face. It's fine, I would have done the same thing. Naruto resigned with another sigh before looking at the family of three with a smile. Don't worry, I have help in this endeavor. Zabuza-sensei, Haku-sensei, how are you guys here? Inari asked, as he hugged Haku, but just smiled at the X7 swordsman. We got word from them to come back, so we did. We figured it was important so we hurried back, as fast as we could. Turns out that I was right, as usual. Zabuza replied, as he was fully prepared to head back to his home to finish what he started, more or less. But how? Naruto-nai only got here earlier today. There's no way he could have slipped away, sent you a letter, and have you guys receive it, and get here all in a couple of hours. Inari got out before taking in a large breath. I had them apply a seal from the training scroll to themselves that is linked to this one on my arm. Naruto explained, as he rolled up his sleeve to show a seal design identical to the ones on Zabuza and Haku's arms. Then all I had to do was push chakra through the seal, and that alerts these two of my location, so that they can know where to find me. It was originally used as a distress signal seal, but it works just as well when I need to have a meeting with someone. Understanding looks passed over the trio's faces, as he got done with his explanation. Well, we better get going. It was great seeing you all again, and maybe if I have enough time after this trip I can come back around and visit a bit more. Naruto said his farewells, as he opened the door and turned to go out, only to be stopped by the sight of a little girl at the door, appearing to have just been about to knock on the door when it was opened. Oh, hello. Izanari Hoi. The girl stepped back in shock at the sight of their savior just casually answering the door. Oh, hey, you're the girl I danced with last time. Asano, right? Naruto remembered with a smile. Do you remember me? Asano asked in shock, as she figured the savior of Wave would have better things to remember than the little old one. Of course, I remember you. You said you wanted to instill hope in people, just like me, right? The blonde laughed seeing the girl's disbelief. Yes. And I've even been training with Inari-kun to try and get stronger to follow my dream. Asano replied with conviction in her voice, as well as a smile, and a thankful nod to Inari. That's awesome, keep up the great work. I can't wait to see how strong both of you become. I'll see you guys later. With that, Naruto and his team dashed into the forest towards their next stop, Yuzashiogakur. It took a good couple of hours, but just as day was turning to night, they had seen the lights of Yuzashiogakur. Well, he could have just teleported using his clone stationed there. As an anchor point, he had wanted to catch up with his 2 employees. He could tell that both of them had gotten quite a bit stronger since the last time he had seen them, but he wanted to get a detailed report of it from them. So, you created a few new ice, have you, Haku? You'll have to show me when we get a chance. And you said you found a new way to use your sword, Zabuza? Naruto asked, as he landed at the newly rebuilt front gate. It even had the symbol for West on the doors. It was easily as large as Konoha's, but with the added upgrade of having pure metal gates instead of regular wood. The walls were made with a special mixture of chakra-inducing concrete, and numerous seals that reinforced its already capable defenses. The walls seemed to span for miles in either direction, none of them being able to see the end of them. Plus, because the chakra and seals only answered to his chakra, he would be the only one able to use his little trump card, in case anyone or anything was actually able to get through. But that's for a later time. Yeah, I actually got the idea from watching you use your clones in battle. People can get pretty overwhelmed when multiple people are jumping at them from all directions, but if those people all had swords, well, most shinobi wouldn't stand a chance. Zabuza laughed, as he explained his technique. Yes, well, I haven't mastered them yet, but I feel they should do wonders in battle once I have. Haku was reassured after letting Zabuza speak. Also, you didn't tell us you were rebuilding Yuzoshiogakure. Is this where the clones went after they left us? Yes, and no. I had left a few clones here after visiting on my first mission to Wave. But, the clones that were with you did come here to lend a hand with what chakra they had left. Naruto nodded before wiping some of his blood on the gate, letting the large steel doors swing open without any squeaking or grinding, despite the size and subsequent weight of the doors. These are really impressive defenses, Brad, but how the hell did you get this giant wall built in such little time? I mean, you've only been gone a couple of months. Though, I guess it is smart to make the walls first. Zabuza asked with utter confusion before gaping at what was held behind the walls. I completely agree. That's why I built the walls before getting started on the rest of the village. Naruto laughed before setting his eyes on his very own village for the first time. He had made the clones so that when they dispelled, they wouldn't send the memories back to him, wanting this moment to be the first time he set eyes on his new home. He could just follow along with their progress by sending back thoughts, rather than visual memories. In front of them sat a village far larger than any of the other Grade 5 villages combined. I mean, he had a whole island to work with, why not use everything you got, right? There seemed to be a spot for everything a village would need. Multiple hospitals, academies, shopping districts, and even spaces for parks and playgrounds. And in the very middle sat the largest building any of them had ever seen, much to the ire of an orange-haired man in rain. It was like a spire shooting straight up into the sky, though it didn't look unstable or wobbly in the slightest. At the very top, the symbol on the doors they had just walked through glowed a dark blue in their direction. A dull thud resounded behind them, signaling that the doors had shut, and with them, the symbol on the tower died down. In front of the tower was a very large tree, though it had nothing on the building behind it, and seemed to be emanating chakra like a beacon to anyone who could sense it. His clones had found the seed for it in the cave, though it was heavily protected and preserved by seals. While Naruto let out, not daring to try, and hid the wonder on his face, and the excitement in his eyes. Well, what can I say except welcome to the new and improved Yuzoshiogakure. As the very first visitors of Nyuzu, you get to have the very first tour anyone has ever gotten of such a grand village. Well, it's not really a village yet, right? Haku asked with a slight frown, not wanting to dampen the mood. What do you mean? Naruto asked in concern, racking his brain to try and think of what he was missing. I mean, can it really be called a full-fledged village if it doesn't have any residents? She asked, though she would admit she wasn't sure what fully constituted a village in the first place. Bien, you're right. Well, I guess you're right. But, we can still take a tour anyway. We'll worry about the villagers later. I assume many of them will come from other villages once we offer them solitude. Naruto grinned before walking ahead with Haku hurrying to catch up, though Zabuza was walking at his own pace with a confused look on his face. Solitude? From what? Later? And this is my office. Naruto announced, as they all stepped into the Uzukage's office. Naruto tried to keep it as close to the old one as possible, even keeping the cage's portraits in the same spots. Whoa, this is really high up. Haku commented, as she looked out the window of the skyscraper. Seeing the buildings from up here made them look like tour blocks. Meanwhile, Zabuza had taken one look out the window before hightailing it to the inside wall, and staying as close to the floor as possible. Well, what's wrong, Zabuza? Scared of heights? Naruto asked with a mischievous grin plastered on his face. No, I just know when I'm not in my element. People were not meant to be this high up. Zabuza said firmly from his place on the floor. Well, you'll have to get used to it. As my head of torture and investigation, you will be reporting to me pretty often. The blonde said casually, knowing he would get the reaction he expected. Zabuza looked up in shock, standing up to the best of his ability, as he looked confused at Naruto. Not that I'm not flattered, but I thought I was going to be your spy outside of the village. Well, I figured Haku could handle herself well as the head of the spy network. Though if you guys don't want to be split up, then I can find someone else for the job. I just thought that those positions would suit each of you well. Naruto thought aloud with a shrug. It didn't really matter to him, seeing as they would both excel in any position he put them in. After a seemingly telepathic conversation between the two, Zabuza finally nodded and spoke. Thank you, Naruto, I will gladly take you up on your offer. I guess it's time Haku made a name for herself outside of just my daughter and partner. Seeing Haku nod as well, Naruto grinned and handed each of them new headbands. Zabuza's was a deep blue and had the symbol of Yuzu engraved in the metal plate, while Haku's was light blue with the same symbol. Thank you both, and congratulations on being the first shinobi of the village hidden in the whirlpools. Why don't we all turn in for the night and get back on our journey to Mist in the morning? I'll show you both where you can stay until we find you a house to live in. And so, after showing the two the living quarters within the cage tower, Naruto headed down to the ground floor via the flying thunder god seals he had placed in certain tubes that allowed people to get to any floor they wanted in seconds. After making sure he was alone, the blonde walked up to the hidden door to the basement and walked down calmly. When he got to the basement, he smiled seeing so many clones carefully studying and organizing everything of value they had found in their repairs of the village. It was the black sand-looking stuff he had seen in his first visit here in the far right corner, though there seemed to be a lot more of it now, and it was held in a large cylindrical tube and had somehow been activated, given that it was swirling all around its confines. Bien. This will be interesting. There were weapons aplenty, with many of them having been cleaned and refurbished by his clones, so that they were good as new. There were probably enough to arm a small army, given that there were a bunch of other, more standard weapons and sealing scrolls that lined one of the walls. A bunch of his clones were busy studying the few vials they weren't able to get done before he got back at the counters that lined the left walls. Judging by what the clones had gathered, most of this stuff was taken when the Uzumaki were still alive and fighting the other clans before they unified into proper villages. They were poisons that he doubted even Tsunade would be able to make an antidote to. In one vial, he was sure whatever it was actually alive, or at least sentient enough to notice someone looking at it, considering it stuck itself to the side of the jar as soon as Naruto approached. Anyway, the blonde tried to ignore all that for the moment, as he made his way to the large computer at the end of the rather large basement. He had updated everything about it so that whenever he placed his hand on the designated space, like so, the computer would react and turn on, rather than having an on-off button. It ran completely on his chakra, so there was no chance of it ever dying or shorting out. Pulling up the files, he noted that everything was updated and organized, especially the lists that were already on the computer. He didn't know how Pain could be so stupid as to write down even basic information on his little team of missing nin, regardless of how secure the place was. He could have a clone do all this menial work, but he didn't want anything to go unnoticed or done incorrectly. It was in those files that the blonde saw something that caught his eye. He smiled before looking over at where the seed was found behind the fake wall to his left. Who would have thought Yuzu had such wonderful gifts locked away? They must have known they were going to get raided and locked everything in here, so no one could get their hands on it. Deciding to call it a night and leave his clones to their work, the blonde went up the tower to his personal room and fell into a dreamless sleep. The next day, noon, 2 miles away from Kiri, Naruto and his 2 accomplices landed on one of the many spires of rock surrounding the village hidden in the mist, which, he had to concede, really did live up to its name. Nearly the entire surrounding area was filled with mist so thick, it was a wonder how anyone could see 2 feet in front of them without a dot. Regardless, the war happening around the village didn't seem to be affected much by the mist. There were 2 main groups. A large army made up of people in traditional Kiri shinobi garb, while the other wore light blue kimonos with bits and pieces of armor around their bodies. He assumed the smaller army with incomplete armor had to be the rebels, seeing as how the other army definitely seemed to have the money behind them. There. That's Asobu's Jinchuriki. Kurama pointed out, forcing Naruto to focus on one shinobi near the back that was observing the fight going on with apathy. While one could easily mistake him for a child, the blonde could see that he held himself with the experience and tension of a man. He activated his Tensogen and saw the chakra that acted like a cloud around the cage's head, showing that he was very powerful. Well, I guess that's how we know who to fight. Let's get down there and let the rebels know we're on their side before getting in the middle of all that. Naruto commented before all 3 disappeared and reappeared before a woman in a dark blue kimono with fishnet leggings below that. It was near the back of the battle so that they could make a retreat if the need should arise, so there was less chance of them being interrupted by a rogue shinobi. Immediately, a man with an eye patch over his right eye and a teen with a large blue sword appeared before them with the intent to strike them down. Naruto, with a bored wave of his right hand, knocked them back by an invisible force. We mean no harm. In fact, we're here to help the rebels in their fight against the current Mizukage. Naruto called out, holding his hands out in a placating gesture. You approached the leader of the rebels with a convicted missing nin and attacked 2 of my shinobi. If you don't mean to fight, you aren't doing a very good job of showing it. Mei Terumi narrowed her eyes, as she tensed her body, getting ready for anything. First of all, I know that I sent a message here saying that Zabuza was now under my employment, and is no longer to be pursued. It's not my fault you didn't get to read it. Secondly, they're the ones who attacked first. Naruto explained with a casual shrug, as if he hadn't just interrupted a full-on civil war. You say you're here to help, but what could you possibly offer us that 1,000 bloodline users can't? And what would you want in return? Mei asked, sounding a tad desperate at the end despite her initial suspicions. I am here to fight you, girl. And I assure you, by the time I'm done, we will have put an end to this pointless war. I am sure your own soldiers will be able to hold off the actual army. Will I deal with the leader, correct? Naruto asked, ignoring everyone's disbelieving looks. Mei pondered for a moment with a stern eye, not missing the fact he had ignored her second question. If you want to go to your death, then by all means do as you wish, but when you realize that you're in over your head, don't look to me to get you out of it. I can't afford to waste my men trying to save a fool from his own demise. I'll take that as a yes. With a clap that made everyone tense once again, Naruto spun on his heel to address his two employees as he walked past them. Zabuza, Haku, you guys help the army, and see if you can't show the soon-to-be Mizukichi what Yuzu Shinobi can do. The blonde's two shinobi both grinned so white it looked like their faces had split in two before disappearing on the spot. Meanwhile, their leader just took a casual stroll through the bloodshed on his way to the offending leader. Do you really think they can help at all, Mei-sama? Chijiro asked hesitantly, still kind of dizzy from the force that knocked him back. We will see, she trailed off, as a thought struck her, and she looked around wildly. What is it, Mei-sama? Aoi asked cautiously, using his stolen Byakugan to try and see any danger. I don't see any threats, what's the problem? Mei breathed in deeply before releasing a rather large sigh. That's the point, Aoi. There are no threats. Both their guards' eyes whitened, as they realized the enemy shinobi closest to them were all down for the count, almost making a perfect circle around where they were standing. Who the hell are you, brat? Mei thought to herself, as she witnessed the blonde casually walking through the battlefield, until he made it all the way to the enemy leader. Meanwhile, his two accomplices were absolutely wrecking any enemy they came across with no hesitation. Hey babyface, that got the reaction he was expecting. The current Mizukichi turned around with a snarl at the person who would dare mock him. His eyes narrowed though, as his eyes landed on the unfamiliar face. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Listen, I'm here to help you out. You wish to help me crush the rebels? Yugura questioned, as he stuck his coil staff into the ground, as he addressed the stranger. No, not with that. I see you're not yourself, so I'm here to knock some sense into you. Well, you and the Sanbi both, actually. He immediately had to jump to avoid a stream of coil that the Mizukichi shot from his staff with a glare at the newcomer. Then you will die with the rest of them. With a quick series of hand seals, Naruto shot off a thin stream of razor-sharp hair that sliced through the core like butter, before just nicking the Mizukichi's cheek. Naruto smirked at the baby-faced Mizukichi's shocked and angry expression. Just try and make this a bit fun for me, will you? Naruto asked before launching into the air again. With Kushina and Mikoto. It shocked both women how they were able to arrive in Kumo the next day. Well, they could have made it within the day, they didn't want to put so much effort into getting there, and then need that energy for a fight. It really was surprising, since during their first life, it would have taken them a few days just to get here. Their bodies seemed to have been improved to the point where not only were their chakra stores larger and more potent, it also seems like they didn't need to eat, drink or even sleep, as much as they needed to when they were alive the first time. The first time she could still barely believe it. She had been ready to give up everything to save her only son from the Kyuubi, and yet she had been given a second chance by none other than her baby. Kushina wasn't sure how she could ever thank him for something like this. It didn't help that any time she brought it up with him, he would just shrug it off and say they were even. Except, that's not how it felt to her. She had done what she needed to, and what any good mother would, but Naruto hadn't needed to bring her back. He didn't need to keep her around or even offer her a second chance, and yet he did anyway. BN. A degrees. She had talked with Minato before he had gone back to the Shinigami, but what he thought up was surely made up. It's not surprising though he never let his own emotions get in the way of the most logical choice. Still, she doubted Naruto would be okay with what they had come up with. I mean, there's no way he would want to be with someone like her, right? You okay there, Kushi? Mikoto asked with a smirk hidden by her raven mask. She knew exactly what she was thinking about, seeing how they were best friends, and told each other everything. With a huff, the redhead took the lead to keep them from seeing her blush, forgetting that she wore her usual Fox Anbu mask. I'm fine. How much further to Kumo? Shouldn't be too much further if we keep this pace. Mikoto chucked. It wasn't too often she had something that actually got her friends' feathers ruffled. Just remember, they know us only as mercenaries, so we're probably going to get some resistance. Yeah, I know. Plus, if the wreckage makes a connection with my hair, he may attack on sight. Kushina sighed in annoyance. From what she had seen from the man, he wasn't the dumbest person around, he just favored punching first, asking questions later. She still felt uneasy seeing how Kuma was one of the villages that helped destroy her clan, even if it was under the previous Raikage's rule. They were stopped at the front gate, just as they knew they would be, seeing as how it is protocol for any village that had half-decent security. So, after telling them their code names and why they were there, they were escorted at kunai point all the way to the Raikage's office, who had so graciously made a spot in his schedule to meet with them. Be quick with it, why are two mercenaries entering my village to speak with me unannounced? The man questioned in a rough voice, his face doing nothing to soften the suspicion in his voice, especially when he laid eyes on the vibrant red hair of one of them. We apologize for intruding, we give our word that we mean no harm to you or your people. We were merely sent here by our leader to discuss negotiating a treaty. Kushina spoke up, figuring that if she just kept silent the whole time that would be even more suspicious. Really? And what village are you with? I was under the impression that mercenaries worked outside of the village system. The man asked while leveling a glare at the masked faces. With all honesty, we are both former Leaf Shinobi. Though when we learned of the corruption plaguing the land, we immediately defected. Mikoto answered, drawing A's attention to her. I see, so you do not have a village then. If that's the case, then I see no benefit to me to align myself with you, he said gruffly, annoyed at having wasted his time here. Oh, I apologize for the misunderstanding, but we do have a village. It's just finished construction, and was built right where old Yuzashiyagakure was. That way, no one needs to change the maps. Kushina jokes, hoping to lessen the blow the Uzumaki clan coming back would have on the man. As expected, A growled when he heard that name. How can that be? We would have heard about someone building an entire village. In the time it would take, someone would have noticed it, and soon after the entire shinobi world would know about it. Actually, from what I know, it only took about a month or two from start to finish. Our cage is very powerful, and use a very liberal use of solid clones to build the entire village, as well as reinforce its defenses tenfold of what old Yuzu used to have. Mikoto replied, shocking the lightning user, seeing as how it took quite a few villages of both major and minor status a full month just to break through their defenses. And who is this cage of yours? Must be a very well-known shinobi if they have that much power at their disposal. A leaned forward into his hands, intent on learning all he could about this new village and possible threat. With Shusei and Shiro. Shusei and Shiro shared an uneasy glance as the Tsuchikage asked them that same question. Maybe he should tell you that himself. After an inquisitive eyebrow from the old man, Shusui rolled out a scroll and pushed chakra into the seal, sending out a cloud of smoke. What met the old man's eyes was indeed a very curious sight. Naruto appeared from the scroll in a peculiar attire. Keeping with his suit and tie shtick, he wore a dark red button-up shirt under a black vest with a matching red handkerchief in the breast pocket. He also wore black dress pants with matching dress shoes. Over all of it, he wore a black trench coat with a large collar. To finish off his ensemble, he wore a white mask over his face with 2 eye holes, and the kanji for 9 on the forehead. He had also changed his hair color to red, so as to not draw on the wrath for looking like the Yellow Flash. This was his mercenary alias, who would have been known as 9, had he let anyone who saw him live to tell the tale. Though, they were mostly bad guys, so he was sure no one would miss them. So, the stories are true. And you are caged nonetheless, how surprising. The old man narrowed his eyes, as he leaned back in his chair, appraising the figure in front of him. Stories. I was under the impression that anyone who saw me was in a condition that would make it very hard to tell their fates. He spoke through the voice modifier in his mask. Hence why they are just stories. To most you are just a myth, but we cages know better seeing, as how someone had to have cashed those bounties. The only reason you aren't in the bingo book is because no one has been able to get an accurate depiction of your skills. Inoki explained, as he stared into the abyss that was the mask's eye holes. I see. I should have known the other cage would take note of any potential threats. Anyway, why don't we talk about alliances? 9 offered, as he crossed his arms. I don't see how allying with such an infant village would benefit Iowa. I understand that you have to be powerful to be a cage, but that alone does not warrant any benefits to my villagers' people. Your concerns are entirely warranted, but I am far from the only powerful shinobi in our village. These 2 behind me, as well as the other members of their squad, are easily as powerful as a fully trained Jinchuriki. Maybe not with their help, but their potential is great, and I am sure they will reach it in no time. 9 smirked, as he sent out the bait. I find that hard to believe, but I know a way we can test that little boast of yours, with some wagers, if you're interested. Inoki smirked, as a plan formulated in his mind. Hook, line, and sinker. Sounds interesting, what did you have in mind? With Madara. I'm gonna kill this kid. Madara thought to himself, as he had asked around about the Jinchuriki he was supposed to find. He had last been spotted in Tea Country, and yet, as he asked around, apparently no one knew anything about him. They were liars. He could spot a liar from a mile away, and civilians were especially easy due to their lack of training. And so, with a little Sharingan shenanigans, he was able to force the truth out of a store owner that was particularly annoying. Apparently the kid he was looking for had indeed passed through here, and was friendly enough to buy the residents' loyalty. The Nukenin had come to Tea Country for a refill of bubble solution, before heading east to Degarashi port, presumably to take a leisurely boat right back north. Just his luck. Since they were mostly just cargo ships, they wouldn't be going very fast, so all he would need to do is get to Degarashi port, find out where he's going to dock, and speed there on land. With his increased reserves and improved physique, he was sure to get there before the ship. And then I'll kill the kid, he thought with a smirk, as his Sharingan faded to black, as he started on his way. With Tauka probably had the easiest mission out of the bunch, seeing as how the leader of the village had sent her, or rather her mercenary persona, a summons to talk about joining their ranks due to her unique skill set. Using that information, she was let in without much trouble, and she could make an educated guess, and say that there was inside of that big tree everyone was avoiding like the plague. So, you were already a shinobi of a village then. That's a shame, though not anything that couldn't be sent in a message. Knowing this, why did you come all the way out here just to tell me? Shibuki, the village leader, questioned, as he raised his eyebrow at the rabbit mask Kunoichi. Because my cage thought this would be a good opportunity to talk to you about an alliance, she answered, as she pulled out a small scroll. The details of the proposed alliance are in this scroll. Nodding, Shibuki took the scroll, and read through the information with a speculative eye. It was interesting, and if these claims were true, then it would be very beneficial to ally himself with this Yuzashi Agakur. Though, it was the section stating what they wanted in return that made him narrow his eyes. You want us to just give you some of our prized hero water? You realize how big of an ask that is, don't you? He asked with an accusatory glare at the woman. I understand your hesitance, but I assure you, we do not mean to consume any of it. If you read further, it will tell you that we merely wish to study its properties in order to make new and improved soldier pills. We would be more than happy to perform such research inside of your village, as well as provide your shinobi with any of the finished products, as you like. The girl explained, hoping the man would accept and make her life easier. I see, so you wish to create miniature versions of the water for battle-worn shinobi in need of a last resort. The only problem with that is that we have been trying to do the exact same thing for millennia. What could your cage possibly try that we have not? He asked skeptically. Although he couldn't see it, Shibuki could almost feel the smug smirk that split across her face. Our cage is the best seal master in all of the elemental nations, trained by the late Yondaime Hokage. He is also working with the Land of Snow and developing more intricate technology, which you would also have access to, at a discount of course. Okay, so maybe that last part is a bit exaggerated, but it's in the plans, so I'm sure Naruto will head there when he has the chance. I see. Shibuki hummed thoughtfully, as he read through the rest of the alliance details. Everything really was very thought out, every question he might have had was answered in the next line or two. Let me talk this over with the council, and I will get back with you. Can you stay in the village for a few days or do you need to be somewhere? He asked after much deliberation. Tauka smirked, as the plan was going smoothly. Thank you for your consideration. I can stay in a hotel for as long as needed. The man nodded with a small smile, as he pulled out a piece of paper before starting to write. After he was done, he held it out to the masked Kunoichi. Take this to the Sleepy Shinobi Inn, and he will let you stay there rent-free. Seeing as how you are an ambassador, it would be rude of me to make you pay while we deliberate. I will send someone to get you when we have an answer for you, and your cage, is that alright? That sounds great, thank you Shibuki-sama. Would it be alright if I explore the village a bit during my stay? Of course, make yourself at home. Just know your limitations, seeing as how we are not allied yet. He replied with a warning smile. Of course sir. Tauka bowed her head, as she was escorted out of the office, and towards where her hotel would be, sending one more glance towards the giant tree in the center of the village, where a large amount of power was sitting restlessly. Naruto. He had to admit, with how much he was holding back, this fight was actually kind of fun. Then again, I doubt he would feel the same. The moist air surrounded him, as he felt the condensation from the mist force his clothes to stick to his skin. He was thankful that the mist itself was fairly cool, rather than a humid atmosphere. At least with the cool air he wouldn't have to fight while uncomfortable in his own clothes. Across from the blonde, the green-haired cage was currently panting, as a blood-red cloak of malevolent chakra surrounded his form. It seemed as if Kurama's chakra wasn't able to hold off the genjutsu for as long as they thought. You have proven your strength, that much is true, but prepare to breathe your last breath. Take pride in pushing me this far, but this is where it ends. With that, the man's form began to grow until instead of a human, there now stood a massive shrimp turtle thing that was the Three Tails, Hisobu. It's about time you brought him out. I was starting to forget why I came all the way out here. Now, why don't you take a nap? Having had his fun, Naruto decided to end the fight now, rather than draw it out even more considering the circumstances. Inside Tsukiyomi. What is this? How have you imprisoned me so? Yugura yelled out, confused as to how he appeared in this inverted world when the last thing he remembered was going full Biju mode. Now he was chained to 2 posts with his limbs spread out and the 3 tails nowhere to be seen. You're here because you are being controlled by a man-child with a heart-on for a dead girl. BN. Well, when you're right, you're right. A voice brought his attention to the blonde man he had been fighting moments earlier. Not to worry though, because I can help you out. But first. Naruto walked forward until he reached the captive and put a hand on his stomach. Since neither of you will remember this part, I'm gonna skip the subtleties and just take what I need now. With that, an orb of pale green chakra was sucked out before being quickly absorbed into the blonde with a slight grimace. There, now we can get to business. Real world. The small war going on behind the battling powerhouses was put to a sudden stop as a quarter of the forces were crushed under the newly appeared Biju. Though that only lasted a few seconds, as just as suddenly as it appeared, the massive being was gone, leaving only their current cage on the ground, with the blonde newcomer standing above him. Okay everybody, listen up. Naruto yelled, as he amplified his voice with chakra. Your cage is defeated. Even with his Biju's help he was no match for me. Unless you wish to throw away your lives for no reason, put down your arms, and head back into the village to the stadium, and await instructions. Naruto narrowed his eyes, as many of the enemy force started to smirk in his direction. Sending a kunai into his hand with unmatched speed, Naruto thrust his weapon behind him, the point stopping a mere inch from the Jinchuriki cage's face. You okay there, Yugura? Yes, thank you Naruto. Please put your weapon down. The man smiled slightly, as he stumbled forward with a hand on his stomach, while the other sought support from the blonde's shoulder. That sight shook the thoughts of continuing to fight from any shinobi's mind, as they all filed back into the village. Did you really have to let it go on that long? Even for a Jinchuriki, my body is hurting in places it really shouldn't. The man asked with a playful groan of pain. Yeah well, it's easier to do when the person's exhausted, as well as when the Biju is out of the seal, like when you go full Biju mode. That, and I wanted a good fight. Naruto smirked, as he helped the cage walk towards the village until they were stopped by Mei and her posse. Can we help you? The blonde asked innocently. I would ask that you hand the traitor over so that he can be tried and executed for his crimes against his village and peoples. Mei responded with the coldness of a diplomat with a fiery rage burning beneath the surface. I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, any blame you place on this man is misplaced, as he was under the control of a madman with exceptional Jinjutsu capabilities. He has been under that man's control for quite some time, and was forced to enact a civil war against the bloodline users. The blonde sighed, as he scratched his scalp, feeling the presence of Haku and Zabuza, as they took their places to his sides. And where is your proof? Aoi demanded, as he narrowed his eyes at the weakened cage. How am I supposed to prove the existence of a Jinjutsu that's already been broken? Naruto asked with a court eyebrow. Though, before anyone could answer, Yugura limped towards the rebel leader with a face of stone, only to be stopped by the woman's guards. I apologize for my actions against you, and all of my people. While I may have been controlled, I was still your cage, and betrayed everyone's trust in me. He started, looking the redhead straight in the eye. Due to my transgressions, I will be stepping down, as Mizukage, appointing Mei Terumi, as the guardian Mizukage. I will also willingly accept any punishment you have in mind. I'm afraid that won't be necessary. A voice called from all around them, seemingly without form. I wondered when you would see a black spiral appear in midair, slowly expanding until a man could be seen with a long black cloak with red clouds designing it, and an orange spiral mask with a single eye hole in the middle. Abito. The man staggered, as his name was revealed by the blonde enigma. The man glared at the group of shinobi, as they got into battle stances. Well, aren't you an interesting one? I assume you're the one that took out Pain. He spoke, his deep voice sending shivers down the new Mizukage's guards. Yeah, that was me, and he still owes me a better fight. The others, seeing Naruto's relaxed stance, started to relax as well, until the blonde's voice called out once more. Don't let down your guard. He'll kill you where you stand if you let him. A deep chuckle sent them straight back into battle mode. I am not here for them. You have already ruined this particular avenue, but I have plenty more to replace it. I am actually here for you, if we could speak without unwanted witnesses. Naruto raised his eyebrow at that. That was certainly unexpected. I guess that's not so bad. Why don't you all head back to the village, and I'll catch up. While the new Mizukage and her guards left without much trouble, Zabuza, Haku, and Yugura required an assuring nod before they started their trek back into village limits. So, now that we're alone, are you really going to keep wearing that mask, Abito? The blonde asked, getting straight to business. Could you blame him? He wasn't expecting to confront Abito for a while now, and yet here he is wanting to talk of all things. That is something I would like to discuss, actually. How do you know that name? He asked, wording it so that he didn't really answer the question. I'm not sure how up-to-date your information is about me, but I know quite a bit about you, and your plans for the Jinchuriki. Naruto narrowed his eyes while Abito staggered at that declaration. You see, I was blessed with the ability to revive the dead, and seeing how he's a living legend, I decided that one of the first people I would revive would be the real Madara Uchiha. Obito had seen and heard a lot of things during his long life, but the ability to revive the dead. He knew the Rinnegan could revive the recently deceased, but someone as old as Madara was impossible. Right. You expect me to believe something like that? If there really was one like that, I would have heard about it by now. Naruto sighed, having expected this response. Yeah, well, it's not really a per se. But I did revive him, and he's working with me to revolutionize the shinobi world. He told me all about your plans with the 10 tails and infinite Tsukiyomi. Okay, there's no way he would have known that unless he's telling the truth, but both instances are equally impossible. And even if Madara really were alive, would he not have come straight to me to finish our plans? Obito thought to himself, as he studied the blonde in front of him. He was about to ask another question when the picture of a young girl with purple marks on her face came to mind. What would the requirements for this ability be, if you're really telling the truth? None that I know of. I was able to revive multiple people on the spot with no knowledge other than their name, and a vague description of them. They all seemed to be the exact same age, as when they died. Naruto smirked. Why? Got someone you want back? Obito growled, as he felt his hopes rising against his wishes. Rinnohara. She was a genin of Konoha who was killed by someone I thought was a friend at the time. Naruto nodded, as he took it all in stride. Could you cast a small one to show me what she looked like? Oh, and if I sense any malicious intent, you will die before ever noticing that it was broken. He said with an innocent smile. Obito nodded with a glare, as he focused on the mental picture of his one-time crush before casting the small dot. Naruto studied the girl as much as he could, noticing that this was most likely a snippet from a memory, given the forestry surrounding them. Focusing back on his task, the blonde memorized her appearance, and broke the with, but a thought. Though, before he did, he caught a glimpse of stark silver hair in the background. Hey, Kyuubi, it seems he had the hots for this chick with how well he could visualize her appearance. As an added incentive for him to join us, is there a way to make her his age? Of course it's possible, you just need to incorporate your time manipulation with your reincarnation technique to age her about a decade or two from her original age. Since this is your first time combining techniques, I will assist with the reanimation while you handle the aging. Thank you, Furball. Let's get this done so we can finish up here, and hopefully head back to Konoha. And so, as he placed his hands on the ground, Naruto focused his time manipulation, as he felt Kurama need his reanimation technique for him. All the while, Obito stood back, gaping at the amount of chakra being put out by this boy. He was tempted to try and kill him now, in the chance that he was lying, and was actually charging up an attack, but that picture in his mind held him back. Suddenly, as he was about to lose his patience, and end this charade here, and now, a large plume of smoke rose up from the ground in front of the blonde, forcing the Uchiha to squint, as he tried to make out the form of his former friend. Unable to see anything, even with his Sharingan, Obito tentatively called out, wincing when the smoke caused him to cough. Raikkofen, are you there? The silence dragged on for what seemed like an eternity. It wasn't even a full 30 seconds after his query that he was silently kicking himself for falling for something as stupid as this. He couldn't revive people, he just wanted to use the smoke as a distraction, so he could get away. When I get my hands on that brat, I will skin him alive before extracting him from him in the most painful way possible. I will extract it by myself to make the process as long as possible for that no-good two-timing backstab Obito. The man in question's eyes widened enormously, as he looked back up to see the smoke mostly gone, and, standing right in front of his presumed deceiver, was what could only be described as a goddess. Her brown hair, cut the same way he remembered and loved. The purple rectangles on each cheek. Her old outfit was made to fit her new-grown body. Everything was perfect. And those beautiful brown eyes bore into him with surprise and concern. Somehow, his orange spiral mask slipped from its place on his face, revealing a face that she could recognize, despite half of it being deformed. I hear you've been causing trouble, Toby. She smirked. The end. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.